Good evening, everyone. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence before we start the meeting. Thank you. I'll call the meeting to order.
Mayor, I'd like to request a motion that we have an executive session put on tonight's agenda after public comment under KRS 61.810
What is it?
for the
You need
sale or purchase of property.
okay. You want that added? You're making a amendment to the agenda add underneath?
Yes, I'm making a motion
comment
to
for-
amend the agenda and to put it under put it after public comment.
Okay. We have a second on Ann's motion? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we'll have executive session after public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Next on the agenda will be approval of the minutes for July the 2nd. Any questions, comments, changes? If there's none, we'll need a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ted. All in favor? Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We'll do financials for July 2018 financials. Questions?
I have a question on the void check. There is, okay, on the general ledger, I do see where it looks like diesel injection service. It looks like there were two payments there, which I do see that there was one voided out. However, when you go down on the second voided check, check 230,474, that shows voided, but I just didn't see it over in the credits. I was just wondering, was that for like was that for the previous month?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, it was for the previous month. It was actually Division of Health.
okay,
They never received it. They never received it, so we voided it and issued them a new one.
okay, thank you. And then I have another question on the financials. It actually pertains to the compensation tax. And this is probably something that's going to need a little bit of research, but I just wanted to bring it up while we were here. Stephanie, our code enforcement officer, gave us the reports for our compensation tax for the total amount that's been collected ever since it was implemented. And it shows that so far collected from the 1% compensation tax, there's been $7,788,355.77. That is the portion that LaGrange has received, so that does not count what is given to the county for the older reserve. So my question, I was going through here looking, and our debt service was at 10.2, so 10,295,000. With the interest, it came out to our payback $11,698,936.46. So if you look at what we've collected, almost $8 million, and the debt service and interest is over 11 million, close to 12, that would show that we have only paid on our debt because as the end of March, it shows our bond balance still remains almost $7 million that we owe on it. So when you calculate that, it's showing that we have only paid 4.9 million on this when we've actually collected almost $8 million. So I do see at the end of March in our Cub bank account that we do have setting aside 2.4 million. However, that still leaves a difference of almost $400,000 that's not accounted for in our compensation tax. So I'm just wondering where that $400,000 is. So if we could go through and look for that, because we're missing, we're missing $396,088.85. Mm-hmm. Because I just want to make sure, because I know this is, compensation tax is just to go to debt service only. And so I want to make sure that we find that
Shannon,
extra money.
do you have a record of the original 600 and something thousand dollars
I
that we
do.
paid?
Yep, I've got that right here.
When we first released or took out the bond?
I
okay.
do. I have that right here with me, actually. That's where I got these numbers from. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think I've been over this with Stephanie Winther. I think we discussed this. I'll get back with her because I noticed some of the figures, but they're not going back. It's hard to explain, really and truly. Stephanie's here if you want to answer our question. She might be able to tell you.
No, I've
or-
already talked with her. She's actually given me the report. So I do have all the reports from when it was first implemented. That's where I actually got all my, my quarterly reports. So I actually have those right here too, as well.
Marianne works that in too, and I think I talked to Marianne one day about it, why they wasn't totally matching up from what we get from them. Marianne, you want to, or
Well, I did reach out and send a message to Stephanie. She was already gone today. I just wanted to, from Stephanie, I wanted to get our second quarter reports because I just wanted to go and match it again and see if the numbers are still off from
I
the second
thought
quarter.
it was a difference the way they were entered. If they got a check from, the way Marianne explained to me, if she gets a check in from somebody that was late or paid late, it doesn't go into the original amount.
Well, and I
Or-
apologize for being late. I had a flat tire.
That's
so,
okay, thanks.
What happens is when we put the comp payments in, they're dated for the date we received the payment so that we can show the deposit for that amount. But like we've been going back to 2017 and collecting for people that are past due. And so when we code it, when Mary Ann puts it in there, she codes it for the correct quarter, but then the payment goes in for the, the current date.
Right. That shouldn't matter, though, because we're doing because it goes by, this is actually from 2013 up until the first quarter of
Okay.
2018. So it's not really month to month. It's basically the entire time. So that really shouldn't matter what date it's put in. It's really the dollar amount that should matter. If that's what we've collected, then we should be able to,
Well, with all the
find.
information you're giving, Shannon, and that's fine, but it might be best you come in and sit down and,
Okay, I will.
and Stephanie's on vacation, but we might be better off to get your questions answered or get to the bottom of what's going on or whatever's happening, or if how they're posted or whatever, so.
Okay.
I mean, you can come in and I can show you what we have collected and what we have deposited, and then from that, I don't know.
That's this, right?
Correct.
So this is everything up until, well, it says first quarter, so
We're still,
basically the end of
we're
March.
still collecting for second quarter right now. So
Okay.
yes, that is everything up until the end of March. That's
Right.
correct. That's
So
what we have
that's what-
collected.
Right, so that's where I've taken my numbers from, is everything collected from 2013 until the end of March of this year. So,
Okay,
but I'll stop in and see Stephanie.
she'll be back. She's on vacation this week, but I think we probably ought to sit down and go over it, Shannon, if you would.
Okay.
Any more questions on the financials? There's none, we'll need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you,
Second.
Ted. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we got to mayor's open remarks. I don't think I've had a chance to thank everyone for the successful Oldham County Day that everybody worked in. The weather was outstanding. It was a great turnout. We kind of had a washout on Friday night for the street dance. It has been rescheduled.
Yes.
I didn't write the date down.
I think it's the last Friday of August.
But it's posted on our Facebook right now, so we have rescheduled that. So
August 24th.
I put a letter in the council's packet from Kentucky Rural Water Association. Our Grange Utilities Commission has been nominated for a 2018 Wooden Bucket Award. They're in the top 10. It's quite an accomplishment for them, and I think, is that right, Ted, out of 250? Is that number correct?
There's actually 250 entities in there, and I don't know exactly how many people are nominated for this award, but we are in the top 10 for the nomination. It's coming up in August in Louisville, and it's one of the highest awards that Kentucky Rural Water presents every year.
Quite a accomplishment to be awarded to that, so I just want to bring that to everybody's attention of that. So that's all I have for mayor's open remark. We will take public comment now. No public comment? All right, we had a motion to go into executive session. We will do that now. We shouldn't be long at that, so we got a motion to go into executive session.
I'll motion we go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor? All righty. Heather, you can come in with us. We'll need a motion to go out of executive session.
I make a motion to come out of executive session.
Thank you, Jen.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we're out of executive session.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to negotiate the purchase of a piece of property within the city limits of LaGrange.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All righty, we'll go to LaGrange Utility Report. I'll have questions on that. No questions? We'll go to the Grange Main Street report. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate the information you sent to us on email also.
You're welcome, and so I won't go over that again, but if anybody has any questions for me, I have information from the History Center that I'll pass out for both sides, if you wouldn't mind.
I emailed Karen last night and I thanked her. There's a article that she included in her email that compares the city of Niagara Falls, New York, and Asheville, North Carolina, and their approach over the last 50 years of urban renewal and historic preservation. And it's a really interesting article, and it definitely highlights the importance of historic preservation and what you now see in modern day Niagara Falls and modern day Asheville. So I definitely encourage everybody to read that.
It was a good article. I read it. Over all the material you sent today, so.
Well, thank you very much. It is interesting, and it just goes to show that we are on the right track. Stay there. So, that aside, if there aren't any other questions concerning that, what I passed out was the History Center is having a, Underground Railroad bus trip. So that's the advertisement I gave. Then also on this Saturday, they're going to have a Road Warrior ride, and that is to fund, that GoFundMe card is to fund the Road Warrior sculpture that's going to be on their property. So if any of you you can go on our Facebook page, and I shared the story. It's a great video to watch of Dr. Heilman and all the things that he's been through. And so it will be his statue that'll be there. And they're going to have a motorcycle ride through Jefferson County, Henry County, and Oldham County on Saturday to raise funds for that. We have this month's events. We have Farmers Market every Saturday. We have the Cruising with the Quads on the August 24th, and August 24th is the Dancing in the Streets that was redone. And then the concert will be on August 31st. The businesses are also going to have, a little further out, September 8th, there's going to be a warehouse, alley, parking lot sale. So to put that on your calendar, you find a lot of neat treasures then. And that is all. You don't have anything else?
I heard that the last Dancing in the Street was absolutely fabulous. I wasn't there, I missed it. I don't know whether you were there, but
Are you talking
Not
about the
sure.
Trackside Tunes?
I don't even know who
Okay.
it was. I just heard that it was really, really good.
Well, good.
My neighbors went, and they've never gone before. And
Okay.
they said if they'd known that that was that good up there, they'd gone the whole time.
Well, this month, we're going to have the Red Belly Rock Club. So if you're into 70s and 80s rock, come
Okay,
on up.
Red Belly Rock- I don't think that sounds 70s, 80s, Red Belly Rock Club, but hey,
Who knows?
go and
They
listen.
they are artistes.
Ah.
Yes, it's wonderful. We had a new couple that had just moved into the house that's next to the Haven. They were there, so it's really a good way to introduce the residents to the town and to each other.
Well, they've lived here forever, but they just never had gone. They said you couldn't believe they missed all that. I said, I'm sorry, should have told you, I guess.
Anybody else? All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Karen. Takes us to number 8, introduction, first reading, ordinance 10, 2018. We need a council member to introduce that to.
Mayor, I'll introduce ordinance 10-2018, an ordinance levying a general tax for the city of LaGrange.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. Ordinance number 10, 2018, ordinance levying a general tax for the city of LaGrange, Kentucky. Whereas it is necessary for the municipal corporation of the city of LaGrange to obtain funds for the operation and maintenance of the city government and to maintain the police protection of the residents of said city and further to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas the Commonwealth of Kentucky, through its statutes and constitution, particularly KRS 92.280, KRS 92.281, and all other applicable law, does hereby authorize and empower a city of the home rule class to levy a tax for general purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the city of LaGrange, Kentucky as follows. 1. There is hereby levied an ad valorem tax at the rate of 20 cents per $100 worth of real estate in the estate of all persons, firms, corporations, or associations having their offices or places of business or executing any right, license, or franchise within the city of LaGrange. There is further hereby levied an ad valorem tax at the rate of 26.5 cents per $100 worth of all personal property in the estate of all persons, firms, corporations, or associations having their offices or places of business or executing any right, license, or franchise within the city of LaGrange. This tax is levied for all purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019. 2. The tax levied by this ordinance is assessed as of January 1, 2018, pursuant to the provisions of KRS 92.4203 and KRS 92.280, and all of said taxes are hereby declared to be due, payable, and collectible as of September 15, 2018. 3. Any taxpayer residing in the city may pay tax bill at any time after the receipt, and any amount paid before October 15, 2018 shall receive a discount of 2% of the gross amount of the bill. 4. Any bill paid after October 15, 2018 shall be paid in its face amount as shown thereon. Any bill remaining unpaid after November 15, 2018 shall be deemed delinquent, and said tax shall have a penalty in the sum of 10% of its face amount added. If any bill is unpaid after January 1 of the year following the year the tax bill was originally due, there will, in addition to the penalty, be 1% interest per month due on the unpaid bill until paid. Penalties and interest are cumulative, and if suit is initiated, then the taxpayer shall be charged and be required to pay court costs and attorneys and/or paralegal fees. 5. Any tax bills remaining in the hand of the treasurer or the city clerk on December 15, 2018, or for any prior year thereto, which have not been paid, shall be endorsed by the clerk or treasurer as delinquent, at which time the clerk or treasurer shall proceed to compute the penalty described in the ordinance and add the same to the unpaid tax bill. After one letter of notice of delinquency has been sent to the taxpayer by the clerk or treasurer and taxes remain delinquent for a period of 30 days thereafter, the city clerk or treasurer shall then deliver the unpaid tax bills to the city attorney for collection. The city attorney shall receive a fee of $140 per hour for the time spent collecting delinquent taxes, and this fee shall be charged as a cost against the delinquent taxpayer. 6. The city shall have the right to place a lien as described by statute on property and recorded in the Oldham County Court Clerk's Office, which recording fee shall be added to the tax bill and shall be paid prior to any lien being released. Failure to file a notice of lien in the office of the Oldham County Court Clerk does not invalidate the statutory lien granted by the Kentucky Revised Statutes and is not a waiver of the right to enforce it. 7. Taxes levied by this ordinance shall be construed as general purpose tax for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019. 8. The ordinance is adopted and passed pursuant to the provisions of KRS 92.280 and all other applicable law. and shall be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage, approval, and publication required by law. 9, if any court of competent jurisdiction shall deem any part of this ordinance invalid, said judgment shall not affect the remaining provisions of this ordinance. It is expressed intention of the City Council that this ordinance and all provisions hereof shall be considered severable, and the invalidity of any section, clause, provision, or any part or portion of the ordinance shall not invalidate the other portions of this ordinance. This ordinance shall take effect and be in force from and after its date of passage, approval, and publication as required by law.
Thank you, Steve. This is, there's no changes in this from the last fiscal year. It's just something we have to do at the start of the fiscal year. So we'll have the second reading and public hearing September meeting. Like I say, there's no changes in the tax rate. I'll need introduction of the first reading of ordinance 11, 2018. If someone would like to introduce that. Thank you, Gene.
This is Commonwealth of Kentucky, City of LaGrange, ordinance 11-2018, an ordinance relating to the prohibition of smoking in the City of LaGrange.
Thank you, Gene. Commonwealth of Kentucky, City of LaGrange, ordinance 11-2018, an ordinance relating to the prohibition of smoking in City of LaGrange. Whereas City of LaGrange has authority to the provisions of KRS Chapter 67, 100, and other applicable law to enact ordinances, and whereas City of LaGrange, first obligation is to protect the lives of all people in the City of LaGrange, whereas the purpose of enacting a smoking ordinance is to protect the public health and welfare by prohibiting smoking in public places and places of employment, and to recognize and guarantee that the public's need to breathe smoke-free air shall have priority over the individual's desire to smoke. Whereas secondhand smoke is a Group A carcinogen, such as asbestos, radon gas, and benzene, and has been proven to cause cancer, no level of secondhand smoke is safe. And whereas numerous studies have found that tobacco smoke is a major contributor to indoor air pollution, breathing secondhand smoke is a cause of disease in healthy non-smokers. These diseases include heart disease, stroke, respiratory disease, and lung cancer. Children exposed to secondhand smoke have an increased risk of respiratory infection, sudden infant death syndrome, developmental abnormalities, and cancer. And whereas a significant amount of secondhand smoke exposure occurs in the workplace, and employees who work in smoke-filled businesses suffer a 25 to 50% higher risk of heart attack and higher rates of death from cardiovascular disease and cancer, as well as an increased acute respiratory disease and measurable decrease in lung function. And whereas the U.S. Surgeon General has determined that the simple separation of smokers and non-smokers within the same airspace may reduce but does not eliminate the exposure of non-smokers to secondhand smoke. And whereas the Environmental Protection Agency and the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers has determined that secondhand smoke cannot be reduced to safe levels in businesses by high rates of ventilation, air cleaners, which are only capable of filtering the particulate matter and odors in smoke, do not eliminate the known toxins in secondhand smoke. And whereas the Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the National Cancer Institute, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention agree that secondhand smoke is harmful to health. And whereas high-tech smoking devices, commonly referred to as electronic cigarettes or e-cigarettes, that closely resemble and purposefully mimic the act of smoking by having users inhale vaporized liquid nicotine created by heat through an electronic ignition system, have been proven to contain numerous risks to human health. After testing a number of electronic cigarettes from 2 leading manufacturers, the Food and Drug Administration determined that various samples tested contained not only nicotine but also detectable levels of known carcinogens and toxic chemicals, including tobacco-specific nitrosamines, and diethylene glycol, a toxic chemical used in antifreeze. The FDA's testing also suggested that suggested that quality control processes used to manufacture these products are inconsistent or non-existent. According to a more recent study, electronic cigarette emissions are made up of a high concentrate of ultrafine particles, and the particle concentration is higher than in conventional tobacco cigarette smoke. Electronic cigarettes produce an aerosol or vapor of undetermined and potentially harmful substances, which may appear similar to the smoke emitted by traditional tobacco products. Their use in workplaces and public places where smoking of traditional tobacco products is prohibited creates concern and confusion and leads to difficulty in enforcing the smoking prohibitions. And whereas smoking is a form of air pollution and constitutes both a danger to health and a material public nuisance, 1. Definitions. For the purpose of this ordinance, the following definition shall apply. A. Dwelling, a house, apartment, or other place of residence used primarily for conducting activities of daily living, including without limitation private residences, a hospital, hospice, or nursing home room. A private residence is a place of employment if it is used as a child care, adult daycare, or other health care facility. B. Electronic smoking device. Any device containing or delivering nicotine or any other substance that can be used in a manner for the purpose of inhaling the vapor, smoke, and or aerosol from the device. The term includes any such device, i.e., whether manufactured, distributed, marketed, or sold as an e-cigarette, e-cigar, e-pipe, e-hookah, or vape pen, or under any other name or product descriptor. C. Enclosed area. All space in a structure enclosed from the weather, being permanently or temporarily enclosed by walls and roof with doors. D. Place of employment. Any location, either public or private, where an owner, employer, or employee perform their designated duties. This includes, but is not limited to, employee lounges, restrooms, conference rooms, meeting rooms, classrooms, employee cafeterias, and hallways. A dwelling is not a place of employment unless it is used as a child care, adult daycare, or health care facility. E. Smoking, the use of any device used to ignite or heat tobacco or any other substance, whether natural or synthetic, for the purpose of, i.e., inhalation, exhalation, burning or carrying any lighted or heated cigar, cigarette, pipe, hookahs, or any other lighted or heated product intended for inhalation in any manner or form. Smoking also includes the use of any electronic smoking device which creates an aerosol, smoke, or vapor in any manner or form, or the use of any oral smoking device for the purpose of circumventing the prohibition of smoking in this article. 2. Prohibition of smoking indoors. A. Except as otherwise noted in Section B, smoking is prohibited at places of employment and in enclosed areas. B. Smoking is prohibited within a reasonable distance of the outside entrance to, open window of, air intake of a ventilation system in any enclosed area in which smoking is prohibited by this ordinance. C. Smoking is prohibited in any enclosed areas or vehicles owned, leased, rented, operated, or controlled by the City of LaGrange. D. Nothing in this subchapter shall authorize smoking in any location where it is otherwise prohibited by statute, ordinance, and regulation, or by order of the fire marshal. 3. Where smoking is not regulated. A. Notwithstanding any other provision of this ordinance to the contrary, the above area shall be exempt from the provisions of Section 2 above. 1. A person's private dwelling, unless used as a child care, adult daycare, or health care facility. 4. Non-retaliation and non-waiver of rights. A. No employer shall refuse to hire an applicant for employment, retaliate against, or discharge an employee because they exercise their rights afforded by this ordinance to report in an attempt to prosecute a violation of this ordinance. B. An employee who continues to work in a setting where an employer allows smoking in violation of this ordinance does not waive or otherwise surrender any legal rights the employee may have against the employer or any other party. 5. Penalties. An individual found guilty of violating this ordinance is punishable by a fine of not less than $50. B, an individual who owns, manages, operates, or otherwise controls a public place or place of employment and found guilty of violating this ordinance is punishable by a fine, 1, of not less than $50 for the first offense, 2, of not less than $100 for the second offense, 3, of a fine of not less than $250 for a third and each subsequent offense. C, an individual who violates this ordinance by refusing to extinguish their smoking material when requested shall be requested to leave the establishment and, if refused, may also be subject to prosecution for trespass. D, in addition to the fines established by 4B, violation of this ordinance by an individual who owns, manages, operates, or otherwise controls a public place or place of employment shall result in the suspension and/or revocation of any and all permits or licenses issued for the premises on which the violation occurred. E, violation of this ordinance is declared to be a public nuisance, which may be abated by the city or its designated agents by restraining order, preliminary and permanent injunction, or other means provided by law. The city may recover the reasonable costs of any court enforcement action seeking abatement of this nuisance. F, each day on which a violation of this ordinance occurs shall be considered a separate and distinct violation. 6, posting signs. No smoking signs, or the international no smoking symbol, consisting of a pictorial representation of a burning cigarette enclosed in a red circle with a red bar across it, shall be clearly and conspicuously posted at every entrance, exit of an enclosed public area. 7, severability. If any provisions, clause, sentence, or paragraph of this ordinance, or the application thereof to any person or circumstances shall be held invalid, that invalidity shall not affect the other provisions of this ordinance, which may be given effect independent of the invalid provision or application, and to this end the provisions of this ordinance are declared to be severable. This ordinance shall become effective and be in force from and after its date of passage, approval, and publication as required by law.
Thank you, Steve. There was a little bit of controversy over this, I think. This is an exact ordinance that the county has adopted. The city's just taken that on, and we've been operating on the county, so we're just going to have our own ordinance adopted to have it on file for us. So no changes in the ordinance whatsoever. This way, if something was changed that we don't agree with, or we can have our own ordinance to do that. So thank you, Steve. Okay, next we got introduction of ordinance 12, 2018. Who'd like to introduce that? Need
I will.
Thank you, Ann.
Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 9, series 2018, an ordinance amending section 5255. This ordinance amends section of part of 52 of the Code of Ordinances. Water service rates are increased.
You're on the, we're on 10. Ordinance 12, 2018, Ann.
Sorry about that. I would like to introduce ordinance number 12, series 2018, an ordinance adopting the existing Oldham County MS4 program stormwater ordinances.
Thank you. City of LaGrange.
Go ahead, Steve.
City of LaGrange, Kentucky, ordinance number 12, series 2018, an ordinance adopting the existing Oldham County MS4 program stormwater ordinances, whereas the City of LaGrange has the authority pursuant to the provisions of Kentucky revised statutes and other applicable Kentucky law to adopt, approve, and incorporate by reference Oldham County's MS4 stormwater ordinances, and whereas it is in the city's best interest to adopt these ordinances for the protection of the public, as these terms provide for safe practices and best practices concerning construction site stormwater, erosion, runoff, and illicit discharge. And now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of LaGrange, Kentucky as follows. 1, that the stormwater ordinances of Oldham County are attached hereto as an exhibit and the contents described in those ordinances are hereby fully adopted, approved, and incorporated by reference by the City of LaGrange as if set out in its entirety herein. See Oldham County Ordinances 05-830-326, 16-830-348, 04-830-217. This ordinance shall take effect upon its passage, approval, and publication according to law. First reading, August 6, 2018. Second reading, September 4, 2018.
Thank you, Steve. We actually signed an agreement with the county on a MS4 program. Abigail Raines from MS4 coordinator from Division Water contacts us, and we realized that even with the agreement we signed, we still needed to adopt their ordinances for the city. So she actually gave us 60 days to get that done. So, so that's what these three ordinances is about that's in your packet, to get that done for the MS4 program. And we are still a co-permittee with the county. All righty, got second reading, public hearing, ordinance 9/2018, Steve.
Thank you. City of LaGrange, Kentucky, ordinance number 9, series 2018, titled an ordinance amending section 52.55. Summary, this ordinance amends a section of part 52 of the Code of Ordinances. Water service rates are increased. Fees, specific fees are increased and now established in the amending ordinance. See section 52.55. First reading July 2nd, 2018. Second reading August 6, 2018. And I would note that the council members have the proposed new rates on their attachments.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Need a second? Second. Thank you. We got a motion and a second. We need a motion to go in public hearing.
Motion for public hearing.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstentions? We're now in public hearing. Anyone want to come forward on this motion? None? Motion to go out of public hearing?
Motion to go out of public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Discussion by the council.
I have some old business, and because I was late, I'm not sure that this can come up. Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped in there too fast.
Yeah, we're discussing the,
I know we are.
yeah, ordinance 9/2018, Gene.
Get this over with.
Okay. So is any questions, any discussion on this ordinance?
I wanted to see if, Ted, would you be willing to come forward and just explain these rates? Because I would like for everyone to know why this has come up and what will happen if it doesn't go through.
Yes, ma'am. The reason we do an annual raise, we've been doing an annual raise now for the last 3 years. It was passed by council 3 years ago. We do the raise to try to keep up with times. We are still got a whole lot of our old infrastructure was put in the 1930s. So we're facing that. We're facing several things with our water and sewer both. We're under agreed order with the sewer. We're easily getting through that process. But the water is something that we're going to have to start to really take some look at, and that's the reason our rate increases went up a little bit every year. And the reason that we need more money, I come to you for more money this year, is because if the county actually is asking for a 17.9% increase, they haven't increased our rates since 2009. They went up at like 30-some percent. Wait to get my eyes here and I'll tell you exactly what it was. In 2009, they actually increased the rates by 39%, us in 2009. They haven't been back for any rate increase since 2009, and they're, like us, they got some projects coming up, so they come to us and ask for a 17.6%, and that's going to increase our purchase value by almost right at $100,000 a year. I've got that for you right here.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up. I just wanted the citizens and everyone to know. I just didn't want them to think that just as a council, we've all just decided to raise the fees. Because like Ted stated, the last increase was in 2009, and it was a 39% increase. So I think most people would prefer to do just a tiny bit at a time as opposed to wait another 10 years and then all of a sudden get hit with a big chunk. So I just wanted him to explain that so everyone would understand what that is.
If you look at 17 rates, we was actually at, I done this on 5,000 gallons. Your average user on residential use in this city is about 4,560 some gallons per month is the average user per citywide. That's on, there's approximately a little over 3,000 residential customers that we service. The rest of them is either commercial or multi-users. And I give you the old 17 rates. I give you the rates that would been by the automatic rate increase, and then I actually give you that on a 5,000 gallon from 18 rates to your new rate would be like $3. If you take 5,000, divide that out, it's going to be like a 0.0008 per gallon of water, and and this will make us back. It will only make us back what the county is raising us on rates. And if you can see there that we bought 331,473 gallons of water in 17 at $1.70. And if you take the 331,473, if we stay at the same number for this next year, in which our sales has been declining because your more efficient washing machines, your shower heads, your faucets, everything they're doing is to cut the usage on water. So our sales has actually declined some over the last few years rather than increased, because we don't have any more developments out there other than Summit Parks and a few homes left in Artisan to build. So there's not a whole lot of new homes going in LaGrange. So the levels is actually declining instead of growing at this time. And for the 30 cents that we're at, the county went up, it's going to actually cost us $99,441.90 for the same amount of gallons that we purchased last year. And that's the reason that we have come to y'all and asked y'all to increase the rates on up by another 10%. Just a shade over 10% to make up the difference in our cost of water per year. And I got a whole lot of you in the ordinance committee. I did pass up the letter that comes from the county, but also while we're at it, I'll give you another little piece of paper.
So the other option would be to do a study, like do a full-blown rate study, and that would cost thousands to do that.
And this is. As you can see on the one I just passed out to you, that I done a comparison of Louisville Water, Oldham County Water, West Shelby, LaGrange ourselves, Carroll County, Newcastle, Henry County, and North Shelby. All of those is pretty close and surrounding to us. And if we go to the new rates that I've asked the council to pass here tonight, as you will see that we are still the fourth cheapest on the list of everyone around us. And in Louisville Water, they produce their own water, so they're going to be cheaper. Oldham County produces their own water, and that's the reason they're cheaper. West Shelby, they actually buy some water. We buy our water from Oldham County, Carroll County, they produce their own water. Newcastle buys water from Henry County. Henry County actually produces their own water, and North Shelby actually buys from Frankfort and City of Shelbyville. So I just wanted to do a comparison to show the council that we are still in a good average rate of everybody that surrounds us. So I don't think that the rate increase that LaGrange Utilities has asked for is astronomical, that we got to keep up with times. If we don't, we'll fall behind, because like I say, we need to put a new altitude valve at Fort Pickens. That will keep the tank from running over. That's $100,000 to keep the tank from it running over. We got an old one down here that was at Woodlawn, was put in at Woodlawn when it was built. It's outdated, it don't work right, so we do have a few overflows on our water towers at Fort Pickens, but put a new one at Fort Pickens is $100,000. And that's the reason that we're trying to keep this city is a good rate city and try to keep our rates as comparative and as cheap as we can, but you know, we have to keep up with times. Any more questions?
And we have pipes in the ground since back
31.
in
1930s.
1930.
Yes, you still
They were
got,
still
you still
fine.
got steel lines, AC lines, PVC lines, ductile iron lines. You've got it all right here in this city. That some of them was put in the 30s. They was put in, some of the lines was put in probably when your old water plant was down at Max Lake. And now we buy all of our water from the county. Any more questions? Was that sufficient, Shannon, for what you wanted?
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Any more discussion by the council? If not, we'll do a roll call.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Shannon,
Yes.
Trey,
Yes.
Jean. Ann,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Tad.
Abstain. I have to abstain because I sit on the board.
What is it?
6, yes.
6 yes, okay. Motion carries. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. Okay, we ready for old business, new business? Old business first? You ready now, G?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Well, I want to apologize. I was going to do this when we did the financial report. You almost flew through that stuff before I got here. But anyway, I do apologize. And I just was looking and.
Your speaker on,
No.
I mean,
I have such a loud voice, I forget I need it.
need to, well, it doesn't record if you don't, so.
Oh. Oh, well, good. Half the stuff I've said in the last 16 years wasn't recorded then. I happened to get a June and just happened to reach down and I had one there in March. And the training things that y'all are going to have gotten a little ridiculous. March, April, May, June, and there's another one in September. The one in June was $1,167.36. I don't know if there's more on that or not. This one was in June was also over 1,000, or was at 1,000. But I don't understand this one in May or March, and it may be a perfect reason for it, but I'm noticing it. Someone was at Texas Roadhouse on 3/7. Then they were at the Holiday Inn at 3/7, from 3/7 to 3:09. Another one was at Steak and Shake from 3/8 to, somebody doesn't want me to read this. Now I can still see it. From 3/8 to 3:11, I don't understand that. Then they were at 3/8 to 3/9. Then someone was at the Holiday Inn from 3/8 to 3:11. Another one from 3/9 to 3:12. Here's another one from 3/9 to 3:12, 3:10 to 3:12. I don't know who they are.
Those are the dates that they were
I know.
Transaction date and the posting date of the cost.
Okay, well, anyway, I'd like to know who went to that.
That was the safety conference.
Is that, and who went?
It was Corey, I, Joe, Debbie, and Shannon.
Okay, so there was 1, 2, 3, 4. Stephanie didn't go?
Yes, Stephanie.
5. So you had 5 people going to it.
And Stephanie and I shared a room. And then I think on that one, you didn't share. No, Corey and
No,
Joe.
they
had
usually
separate
don't
rooms.
show, or share. What about the June one here?
That was the BAD conference, KLC,
It was the what?
was it BAD? Was it?
Blighted, dilapidated, and abandoned
Bad-
property.
Why
Yes.
would we send 4 or 5 people to a bad property thing costing $1,000 when the only person that should have went is our code enforcer back there? I mean, this is an election year. None of us up here, well, I'm not gonna be, because I quit, but, nobody else up here even knows they're gonna be here next year. Why would you waste the money at restaurants, at hotels, and if I were, tell me if I'm wrong, did y'all not leave the day before and didn't work? And you went to Lexington?
Gene, you've been to these conferences
One
just
time-
as
you know
many
how
as any of them.
Do you know how many conferences I've been in 16
Well,
years? About
you're-
6.
You've always been welcome to go.
Oh, no, I
And
haven't.
I
You
learned,
usually
Gene, I've
don't
been
even
going to these
tell-
for 23 years, and I learned something every time
Joe,
I go.
You usually don't even let me know you're going, so don't give me the bull about
Gene,
how
you
you're invited.
you get the same information, because you've been to them. You ought to get those cards in
Yeah.
the mail just like the rest of
Joe,
us
I've been about 6 and 16 years,
do. Yeah,
if I've been to 6.
you would get notified. You got to
You're
get
not
notified.
answering me. You are not answering what I'm asking. Why did all of you go to for about a house that's run down? Or might be dilapidated, or whatever the heck it was
Gene,
about?
it's always been my thing in office to cross-train everybody. Everybody needs to be cross-trained, and that's just exactly the way it is. They can answer questions just as easy as anybody else.
Why
I don't
would
want.
anybody
I don't want
ask
just.
them?
What if that one person is out and has to be out for a while, and somebody has to step up and take care of that position or that job?
I
So
don't-
everybody, I like to
Why
have
did
every one
Tad
of
and
them
Debbie
cross-trained.
go? They're not gonna get phone calls about it.
You,
Excuse
Well,
me,
maybe you do, but
excuse
I
me,
mean-
we do get phone calls about
Sorry, maybe you
dilapidated
do,
property,
maybe you don't,
and I
but
had
this
every
has
right
got
to be there.
Ridiculous. March, April, May, June, and y'all are going to September. Why did you get hotel rooms when it takes you an hour and a half to get to Lexington? And yes, I did it once, because quite honest, I hadn't been there often enough to even know what the crap I was doing. You all know everybody's names and what town they're from, because you go so often. And maybe that's great, and maybe it's not. I don't know. But I got to looking at all this money, and this is just 2 months.
I would like to say, I think training is great. I mean,
I do
I've been
too.
to several and I have learned a lot. We've talked about this once before in the past, that we had mentioned that anytime someone goes to training, we wanted them to come back and let us know what they've gotten out of it and that has never happened. The problem I have with it is, like you said, when you're going to trainings that are 30 minutes, an hour away, when you're booking a hotel in Louisville
before.
and you're paying and the city is paying for you to stay in Louisville, there's no reason for that. You can,
and the one in September, every one of us is going is paying our own hotel bill.
so you
That's a
guys are
first.
staying.
They're a first. That's a first.
Well,
Must have heard
I
I was
just think a
gonna
lot
talk.
of times it's just it's just a weekend or
It's
weekend
not the first
party.
I have, Gene. I went to one that stayed at Crown Plaza, and I paid my own hotel bill at Crown Plaza,
Well, good
just to
for
keep
you.
from having to drive in every morning and fight the traffic.
I said,
So
good for
we're
you.
paying our own at the September
How
meeting
many's
also.
going in September? It's an election year, Joe. Why are you taking anybody? Nobody knows up here whether they're gonna be here.
Nobody know. If we knew that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I mean, if I could predict the future like that, Gene, you know?
Just
so
because you're not gonna
can't-
be here, you don't quit and not be here. That's a silly statement. You have to be here until your
Yeah,
term
as
is
long as
over.
we're here and we're elected officials, we got a right to go to
Hey,
the conference.
as long as old,
It's the bottom
as
line.
LaGrange doesn't care all the money that you have spent over these things, then fine.
Thank
That's
you,
all I
Gene.
have to say.
Anybody else got any old business?
I have a few things. Do you mind, there was an article in the Oldham Era about the property in Cedar Springs Court, where the council had voted for demolition of that property. Could you or the code enforcer explain or give a better explanation of the delay on the nuisance property that the council voted on? Because we have no authority once we vote on that.
Last month, for the Stephen Casey property, we did get a default judgment on foreclosure. So the house has officially been foreclosed on. I spoke with the bank last week. They are working on getting their numbers together, and they're gonna start cleaning it out, and they thought within 60 to 90 days is their timeline, and then they'll have it listed for sale. So that's where we are.
Just to jump back one, I'm sorry for a second, Stephanie. Did you stay in Lexington for when you went to the training?
No, ma'am, I did not.
You drove back and forth?
I drove back and forth.
Okay, thank you. Did you learn anything?
We learned a lot.
Good,
Yes,
good,
learned a
I'm
lot.
glad.
And we are implementing a lot of things based
Good.
on that training. So it was a
Good.
very, very positive
Well, I
training.
always knew that you should go. I mean, that was not a question.
Trey, did you get your question answered?
I think so. Just for the record, the council, our role was to vote on if it was able to be demolished, and that was our only role.
Yes, we even got a price on
Was that?
getting it demolished. It's
For
just
Cedar
the,
Springs.
It's been about a year ago.
It was,
Yeah.
yes, we do have, and we
But-
did have an estimate in the file for it. That was my predecessor in it. And then I guess the USDA stepped forward and said, give us a chance to go ahead and foreclose on it. And they worked hard and they rushed it through and they got the foreclosure, so.
Thank you.
The federal people got involved in it, didn't they? And
Yes.
that-
yeah,
Yes.
that's the reason the kind of loan it was. It was
Yes, the
a
assistant
federal
U.S.
loan,
attorney
yeah.
is who I've been in contact
Yeah,
with, is the
so-
U.S. Yeah.
So their purpose is to get in and clean it up and
Get in to clean it up,
try
and
to-
within 60 to 90 days is the timeline they gave me, and they'll have it listed for sale.
Start the 60 to 90 days?
Last week,
Oh, last week.
maybe
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Thanks.
Get you, Trey.
Yes.
Trey, I'm sorry. I know can we go ahead and schedule an ordinance meeting? Because I have to leave in a minute.
Okay. I have one other thing though, so just bear with me. How about 8/29? It's a Wednesday at 6 o'clock. I'm going to move them upstairs just for in the community center, just because
for space. Wednesday, August 29th?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
6 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. The other old business, I think I asked, it was either 2 or 3 months ago, was the stoplight system at the corner or the intersection of Highway 53 and 146. I've seen a little bit of, I don't know if it's related, but some electrical looking workers out there, are they moving forward with any kind of light system being put in anytime soon?
It's my understanding they've got the poles now, the last that I heard, and I guess that's the reason they're pouring the concrete bases. And because I think the last time you asked, they'd sent out 2 or 3 bids, and some of the bids didn't even bid on them, so I think they did get someone to design the poles. I guess that's the reason they're doing and I will follow up on it,
Thank you.
and I'll send you an email
Okay.
to just make sure where we are.
Yeah, if you could send it out to the whole council. Part of the reason I'm asking, one, I'd like for it to happen. I think when the intersection was changed with the traffic pattern, I think we all felt the brunt of that. But school is about ready to start, and there's going to be a lot more drivers on the road. That's just going to get a lot more congested.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we're having some complaints. We don't know why they did that, but that's dealing with the state, and we don't mind dealing with them, but it's a state highway, so we have to go through them, so as long as everybody understands that, but I'll check and try to get an update on it and send out an email on it for y'all.
Thank you.
All righty?
I just have a couple of things. One is I'd like to publicly thank Chris Fitzner and all of his volunteers that worked at the Oldham County Fair. This by far was the best fair that I've been to in years and years. So I just want to say thank you to them. They did a wonderful job. I have just a couple more quick things. Steve, I wanted to see if it'd be possible if you could provide us a log statement of all the payments that you've received on behalf of the city. If you could get us a log of all of the payments that you have received on behalf of the city, from whether it's compensation tax or business license or business. Yeah, if you could just get us a log on what you've,
Payments received on behalf,
yes, on behalf of the city. that
at our
you've-
office that gets paid over to the
Yes,
city?
sir, because I would just like to take a
How
look at
long
that.
do you want me to go back? I think I started
just-
about 8 years ago.
You don't have to go back that far, maybe just a couple. And then, if possible, if we could just get amounts of how much is outstanding for each client so that we know. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was a couple of weeks ago, I emailed everyone an email regarding the lake over there at Wilburn Park. And Joe, I just wanted to see if you could publicly let everyone know what's going there, just to kind of fill everyone in.
We've just had it treated by what we call the pond lady. It's going to take about 3 weeks the gentleman came out and treated it. It's going to take about 3 weeks for us to see the difference, and he's probably going to have to come out again. Is that correct? Yes. Heather?
Well, they treated
And
it
it,
a month or two ago or something. Well, they
just Public Works did.
Yeah, I know.
So we're going to see how this goes and see it. None of this comes cheap, I'm going to tell you. The chemicals are very expensive. The bill was what, 2020,
Just for what he did last week, it was $2,100.
$2,100 just for him going out and treating it last week with all the chemicals he treated it with. It's supposed to kill the plants. The plants in the lake is what's caused it, all the plants. But he actually put what they call good bacteria in the lake. So he said it might take about 3 weeks to see the difference in it.
Some of the neighbors were just concerned because I guess they had found a lot of dead fish and it was starting to smell, so
Fishing in
they're.
there. There's still, I saw, went, checked it like.
There's
Ross
nothing,
did.
there's nothing in there there's no algae that's harmful to anyone in there. He told us that.
When we lost the fish, it was when we had that big temperature change overnight. And where it's so shallow and the irrigations are spread out, there was not enough oxygen where the algae and the weeds had grown up. It smothers it and doesn't allow the oxygen. From what the guy was telling me, I met him at the pond, and he said it didn't allow oxygen in that temperature change that quick. That's
Okay.
that's
So
why
they
we
are
had turned
working on that then?
Yes. Yes.
We started
Thank you.
working on this on the lake, I think of October of last year, I believe, if I remember correct. We even had a dredging company to look at it. Corey, Public Works Director, went over to, I think they were dredging one at Goshen, is that correct, Corey? He went over and looked at them, but we got an estimate even to have the lake dredged. It's almost $500,000 to dredge that lake, and that's not including getting rid of what they pull out of the lake. If you don't have someplace to put it, it's either got to be done by truckload or at that time we thought we might be able to have a spot to take that to. So it's like I say, none of this, anytime you get into this, it's all you're talking is dollars. That's what it amounts to. There's no cheap way to get by of doing any of this when it comes to the environmental and what we have to do to it. So $500,000 probably wouldn't even touch it now. since even last October, it's gone up. And we hadn't even figured the cost of where if it had to be bagged and hauled off or whatever it does. So, but it's something that it's not all the complaints we're getting and what we're hearing, it's not falling on deaf ears. We're definitely working on it, and we'll continue to work on it. And so if that will help you, Shannon, in answering your questions, yeah, so.
What about the geese?
You go down there one time, I go down every afternoon. One time you go down, there might not be any. Next time you go, there might be 6. 2 days later, there might be 30. And then today, this afternoon, there wasn't a goose to be seen anywhere.
Well, there
So-
were 4 in the spring, that's all I was there.
Yeah,
Every
so
day,
I don't-
4.
yeah.
But I went, the other day, it was 21, that's only
Yeah,
just a
I-
bunch that I saw. I don't know if there was any down at the lake.
I've done the same thing, Gene. It happens. You don't ever know. But every afternoon I get off at 4:30. And I think code enforcement Stephanie does the same thing. A lot of times I think we meet each other coming and going, but we're keeping an eye on it. We're definitely keeping an eye on the lake. The big lake looked a lot better, but there's more aerators in it, so it had improved quite a bit this afternoon. The small one we're still having some problems there, but maybe the good bacteria, I think, is that what he called it? Good bacteria, Heather?
He put a chemical to kill the weed, and then he put the good bacteria in there it pretty much dissolves those weeds. It keeps them from turning into muck, from those dead weeds to turn into muck.
So, that's where we are, so.
Actually, no, Tracy here, she likes it.
Yeah, I mean, the dogs, they've been there 30-some odd years, and you stop and think of all the building that's gone on in Oldham County. Where's the wildlife supposed to live, if you think about it? I mean, I've been told we have, I know we have one baby deer one time, because they had put it down, because something bit the whole side end out of it. And, there's a lot of me, but I like animals, though.
Any other business brought before the council? Old, new business, anything? Need a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dan. Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Thank y'all, I appreciate it. Good meeting.